if reposted.
Today we're joined by David Carzell. He is someone I've known for a long time through improv. He's an actor. I find him to be inspiring, and I think you have deep thoughts on pretty much everything. So I'm really excited to hear what you have on this. Our quote today comes from a TED Talk from Ethan Hawke, and in that talk he says, "Human creativity is nature manifest in us." I thought the whole talk was really interesting, but what did you think about this quote?
Oh my gosh, so many things. First thing I thought when you sent me this was your podcast is only, you said it's only gonna be like 10 minutes. I was like, 10 minutes, bro. This is a whole night, bottle of wine, maybe some other stuff. Like this is fantastic. Oh man. The first thing that came to me is this idea of just first of all, just creativity, man. I know I actually had watched that thing the week before when it came out, and I really resonated with a lot of it. It really kind of brought home a lot of what Ethan Hawke has done throughout his career, and it made it make sense a lot. As far as the whole human creativity thing, yeah, man, I think it's really true. There's a concept in this kind of esoteric thing, branch magic called the true will. It's a thelemic idea from Aleister Crowley. I know he gets a lot of crap, but he really was a pretty decent at his thing. What he did, he was kind of a shit person, but he had some really good ideas. And this idea of the true will is the idea that there is a part of you that is kind of really specific to you. It's kind of your true, the thing, the nature, I guess, sort of in its desire to be manifested through you is going to manifest a certain way. And in that, for you, that's going to align to your true will. I think a lot of the time it becomes challenging for people because a lot of the times we think it's all about our experiences. You know what I mean? Like it's all about like, you know, how we were brought up and stuff. But it speaks to this idea that there's a core kind of part of you that isn't really touched by anything else. It's kind of that inner child idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
David, I love this series by Ethan Hawke too, and I love when he said the world's a bad critic, and he's talking about his grandma's quilts. Like his grandma should have got gazillions of dollars for these quilts, but because they were so beautiful, but she didn't. Moby Dick comes to mind. I think is a better idea. Moby Dick came out in like 1851, wasn't successful for another 70 years, and then took off. Herman Melville, who wrote it, died destitute. Like, how do you, as an artist, even present your art knowing that the world is a bad critic of art?
You know, it's really interesting. I have a series I'm on a TikTok that I started recently that's doing pretty decently well, and people seem to be really resonating with it. And as far as my art goes and just putting it out and being a bad critic, it was literally, I know a lot of people, I have a very sort of direct expression artistically. I kind of just say exactly what it is a lot of the time. And for this series, I literally it could have been lifted directly from like a journal, like a diary, and just put on screen. And it was probably the most vulnerable things I've ever done. But almost all of the comments are, oh man, I really get this. How did you know me? Wait, are you like, did you find, like, are you behind me right now? What's happening? So as far as knowing the world is kind of a bad critic, for me, I find that I try to trust what kind of inspires me, what makes me feel vulnerable, what scares me, and just leave that to everybody else. Like, leave the critiques to everybody else, because you know, if you're too focused on that, I think you're not gonna do anything. You know what I mean? You're just gonna you can get kind of stuck in your own head a little bit.
I think kind of going off what you've been doing with your motivational speaker thing on TikTok, and it's also on Instagram, FEAUX, motivational. Ethan Hawke also said to express yourself, you have to know yourself. And from watching you and kind of knowing you, I think know yourself is one of the things that you kind of talk about a lot. And as an artist, and then I guess advice to other people in life, like what do you say about like knowing yourself on how
Oh
you
man,
can
I love that part in the Ethan Hawke thing, obviously, because he's just people make it more complicated than it needs to be, and he was just like, it's easy. I'm like, all right, Ethan Hawke, this is my guy. I rock with that. I catch a lot of flack if I say stuff like that, but like for me, knowing yourself is really, really just becoming curious about yourself. I think as an artist or any person really, a lot of the time, we are kind of bombarded from a very, very early age, I think, with, societal things, things from your parents and things. And honestly, a lot of these things are relative, they're necessary for a lot of the time, to try to keep children alive. Kids are dumb. So I think a lot of the stuff is we create a lot of structure for children out of fear. But a lot of the time when these structures are kind of enacted, especially when they're mostly created in fear and not really meant to empower kids, a lot of stuff can stick that has nothing to do with you. So I know, as you grow, you begin to see some of this isn't mine. In fact, a lot of this isn't mine. So for me to really begin to know yourself, it becomes about becoming curious as to like, is this mine or somebody else's? Like, did somebody else put this here? Where is this sort of psychological damage that has nothing to do with me? And then just becoming curious as to like, what's that kind of core thing that resonates with you? I think Kanye West calls it, your inner dinosaur. Like, it's a kid who wants to play with dinosaurs. I don't want to lose that kid. Where's that kid? I think creatively throughout my life now, I'm finding the more I become in touch with myself, the more childlike I become. Like the things that I loved when I was a kid, I'm like, oh no, I just really like that. It's something I enjoy doing. It's something I find interesting. So I think becoming curious as to like what's you and what's everybody else is really, really one of the biggest things you can do for yourself.
And you talked about like he touched on kids, and as you grow older, he said the pull of habit is really huge. And so you have this habit of your normal everyday life that I think pulls you away from creativity. And I think you kind of I like how the Kanye play, you want to play with dinosaurs. I really like that.
Yeah, the habit thing is huge, man. I know I get a lot of like moms, millennial moms say they don't have time for this and that and the other. And I know the challenges of the day-to-day responsibilities of adult life can be a little kooky for people who want to be creative. I know you and me, like we do improv, but like we have to create that sort of time. I think people get hung up on that, maybe because a lot of the time they have an idea of what that's going to look like or supposed to look like, right? They saw like somebody who has like a podcast or somebody who's just like, I just wanted to start a coffee shop. And they're like, that's the thing. Like, I'm never gonna be able to start a coffee shop. But what's it for you though, right? Taking the time to become curious. If it's a friend of mine does pottery, and she had this idea that it had to be this grandiose, I gotta start an Etsy, and then I'm gonna and turn my passion into money. And it's like, just go make pots. Like if you just want to do that for you. Do a small thing for you. And I think really starting small. I'm reading a book right now, and she's not paying me, and I'm not gonna.
I don't believe it.
It's called You Are the Guru by Gabrielle Bernstein. And one of the points in it she makes is to take inspired action, taking one inspired action towards your goal, towards something that resonates with you. And if for you, that's just like buying a kooky shirt on Etsy, like, and that makes you feel good, start there. That could be enough. But that is going to lead to something else. Doing one tiny thing that you love is just, it compounds until now you're, start on the trees and then the forest will appear. Amen. Right.
You have this pretty deep Latin motto up on some of your social media. I'm going to butcher it. Solvit corpore et coagulate spiritus.
Solvate coagula. Separate and combine.
Separate and combine. And so where's the art in that? Like how does the art come out of that?
The art in separate and combine for me always comes out of exploration. So the idea is, if we think of kind of where you want to sit. Your core kind of got this sort of initial idea. A lot of the time for me, so I'm an actor too. So for me, that's going to look like I get a scene, we get a scene or a play or whatever, and we start with the text. And we have an idea, kind of a fuzzy sort of idea about what we want this character to be, what the scene's going to be. But I don't know a lot yet. Through rehearsal, through, doing it over and over again, I'm going to go down a bunch of paths. So if you look at it like a lung or any sort of thing like that. For me, what happens is, and I'm going to use a more specific example just to make that make sense. Specifically when we are looking at a character and kind of creating a character for a screen or a play or whatever, you're going to start with that core text and you're going to stretch, right? In the process of exploration for art, I'm going to stretch to all these different places. Maybe he wears a monocle. Maybe he has an accent. Maybe he has a limp. Maybe he has a voice affectation. Maybe there's so many things I can explore that are going to separate me, right? And separate. And they're all going to become these little fun pockets of exploration. But eventually, when it comes time to be present and actually produce the thing, all of those things have to come back into the present moment. If at any point during creativity, I'm trying to go like, oh man, I remember when I did that thing with the monocle, that's gonna hit. You're removing yourself from the present moment. And that's with any art that you do. If I'm like, oh, I remember that painting I did once when I did this thing, people really love this moment. You're pulling yourself out of what's happening right now. So you can separate for the exploration, but you have to come back to right now because that's where you're going to find your discoveries. That's where it's going to come to life. And when people talk about like, oh, like how did that moment happen on camera, Meryl Streep? She's like, it just happened in that moment. Like that's what's happening. And I think for me, separate and combine is really, really, it's just massive to me.
So you said this at the beginning of the episode, and I'm realizing now more than ever how right you were that 10 minutes was way too short. But we want to thank you again, David. Check him out at Photivational Speaker, FEAUXTIVATIONAL_speaker. He's on Instagram. Most of his awesome stuff is at TikTok. He's, like he said, he's growing. It's really inspirational. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Andrew, Larry, thank you guys. Y'all are the best. I really appreciate this. This is a lot of fun.